Ever feel like you're getting less success than you are worth? You go to school, work a job you hate, pay off debts you didn't even ask for, and still can't seem to make it? Well, that's because we're playing by old rules that don't work anymore. The boomers and older Gen X spent decades telling us the key to success. Get a job, buy a house, and work for a company until you can retire. But here's the thing. Gen Z isn't buying it. We've been handed a broken system, and we're rejecting it. And boomers hate it. Let's get real. The old definition of success is nothing but an illusion. For boomers, it was simple. Work hard, get a steady job, buy a house, and retire when you're old. But here's the problem. For many of us, that's just not happening. In my other videos, I have pounded you all with reasons why the old definition of success is close to impossible. So if you are curious, check them out. We're told that success looks like buying a home, having kids, and working ourselves into exhaustion just to survive. Now I've been reading comments saying that working to survive is normal, and I am just lazy and entitled for thinking otherwise. While I agree, we are all working towards making money, whether that be a job or a side hustle. But working to survive is meaning working and only being able to afford the bare minimum stuff you need to survive, like food, housing, and transportation to your job. All of these have massively increased prices, and when people say Gen Z is entitled for wanting a little incentive for working every single day just to keep doing it the next day to no end, is an arrogant and narrow-minded thinking response. Boomers will try to hit you with the, "I worked hard for everything I started with nothing and built everything from the ground up." And Gen Z is like, "Yeah, that is exactly what we have to do too. Except we have to pay 8 times what you had to pay for basic necessities of living and have little to no incentive to work. How is it that anyone would want to even work a traditional job when it does nothing for you except make you miserable and give you 3 to 4 hours at night to recharge so you can keep thinking, maybe this is the day I will finally get a raise?" When in reality, boomers will just tell you, "You have no skills, you are getting paid a fair wage." And while that would be true if I was a high school graduate with no prior job history, that is stupid to think of a college graduate. Speaking of no skills, have you ever seen a boomer actually in the office? I worked in IT, and let me tell you, they are some of the laziest people in the workforce today. Don't believe me? Here, take a look.
Boomers and elder Gen X are the least efficient people I have ever worked with in an office environment. They will sit and spend 10 or 20 hours a week, like hammering through some sort of data management, like data parsing situation. You tell them that you can make it easier on them in Excel. They argue with you because there's no way that you could ever be smarter than them. So you make the Excel document, you told them that there's actually a way that they've been, oh, this thing you've been spending 10 hours a week for the last 20 years on, like, hey, I made it so you could do it in 2 minutes. They won't even say thank you. They'll then make up excuses as to why they weren't able to do that, or as for some reason, the way they were doing it was somehow better. Because, they were doing it by hand so they could check the numbers. I swear this has happened like dozens of times to me. Somebody wants to fight you tooth and nail because there's no way that because you're younger, you could possibly do something better than them. Like, boomers and elder Gen X are a very special breed of people. Like, elder Gen X and younger Gen X are very, very, very different people. All my younger Gen X people, they're not always the greatest, but do not get them roped in with the elder Gen X people. Like these people born like way back in the late 60s. Like these people were still reaping boomer rewards and then want to sit here and talk to you like you're lazy, you don't know what's going on, you're not part of the most efficient workforce in the history of the country that has ever existed. No, to hell with both of them. These people did not work hard. They had shit handed to them. Like, they got access to pensions. They got access to high wages. They got access to buy houses for pennies on the dollar compared to what everybody else is trying to do it today. Fuck both of them.
Even this older Gen X man is saying it. Boomers are lazier than us. They say we have no skills, Yet they can't even figure out how to open up a PDF or simply open a program on a laptop by themselves. The audacity to even say that the majority of Gen Z has no skills is just absurd. Being competent in tech alone should be enticing enough for employers to hire Gen Z for entry-level roles. Because then again, they are entry-level, not master-level jobs. I have talked to many of my college graduate friends ages 22 to 25, and they all say the same thing. Applying to 100 jobs only to hear back from 5 to 10 companies, only to have them waste your time commuting and meeting their whole team, just for them to be too lazy to send an email back to you saying you didn't get the job. In all honesty, boomers will make up many excuses saying, "That's just how life is," or "I had to do it and now you do too." But that's the thing, you can keep bullshitting Gen Z saying you went through the exact same thing we are now, but we aren't stupid. A simple look at statistics and the feeling the quality of life when you visit a grocery store should tell you. It was way easier to get a job, afford things, not to mention jobs, than pay the same wages we have today. But then again, boomers, much like your ex-girlfriend, will avoid accountability at all costs. Here's where it gets interesting. Gen Z is redefining success, and guess what? It's not about stacking up material possessions or climbing some corporate ladder. For us, success is about freedom. It's about doing what you love, living on your own terms, and finding happiness without killing yourself for a paycheck. Although it may be hard in today's world to not find yourself slaving away for a piss-poor excuse of a paycheck, many of you probably know someone who took a 9-to-5 job only to find out they hated every minute of it. The truth is, unless you are a company bootlicker, you probably won't enjoy much work in a corporate setting. People in the higher up in the industry will go on and on about how it is better than working a blue-collar job, but Gen Z is even opting into more physical work just because it pays more and requires you to put up with less dogshit wages. So I can see why it looks better than the corporate jobs, but it still is a job in today's job market, which means you are working for a dollar that has lost half its purchasing power since 2019. Instead of working a dead-end job just to get by, we're embracing a new model through creating businesses, freelancing, and finding alternative career paths. Then again, the average person usually doesn't have the drive or mentality to start and finish these kind of projects on their own. But also, you can't find success in an office cubicle if your soul is dying inside. So if we, the younger generation, want to be financially more successful, you have to put in the work. In this case, it would be working for yourself, which I find to be a whole lot more motivating and rewarding as you receive 100% of the benefits of whatever you do. In a job working for some greedy corporation, you might save the company thousands of dollars or sell millions of dollars of product. But then we are seeing more often than not the employer not rewarding you for doing so. I have seen so many comments and Reddit posts on employers screwing over their best employees, which should honestly be a slap in the face to the boomers. Their end goal should be to retire and have the working class be moderately happy enough to want to do a good job and continue. But we all know they got theirs, and now they couldn't give less of a shit. The system boomers set up doesn't work for us, and they hate that we're rejecting it. They want us to put in the time, but we're seeing through the BS. We don't need to spend decades doing things we hate for a future that's little to no guarantee. Boomers criticize us for not being loyal to companies, for not sticking to the same job for 30 years. But why would we stay loyal to a system that screws us over every chance it gets? They've watched the economy collapse, housing prices explode, and climate change ruin the planet, and all they've done is sit back and tell us to work harder. Well, we're done. We're smarter than that. We see the bigger picture, and we're not going to follow their outdated path. Our generation is done with the hustle culture that says, no pain, no gain. We know that success isn't worth it if you're sacrificing your well-being along the way, only being able to afford the basics with no fun along the way. I know I am not the only one that has not been able to afford a vacation, whether that is traveling or even just taking a break at home. It demoralized the younger workforce, which is why Gen Z is opting out of traditional work as they offer little to no days off. Gen Z is about balance. We're redefining success by prioritizing our health, happiness, and emotional well-being. And we're tired of being told we're entitled or ungrateful for wanting what boomers have always had. Gen Z is done with the old ways of success. We're building a future that makes sense for us, for our mental health, and for our planet. And if boomers and Gen X don't like it, too bad. We're done being slaves and following their outdated script. We're writing our own story, and it's one that actually means something, not chasing a paycheck that just barely covers our living expenses and leaves little to no room for enjoyment in life.